Hello, my name is Carlos, and today I'm gonna give my informative speech. I'm gonna talk about Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci was one of the greatest minds of all times. His legacy has transcended history itself. So we're gonna talk about his life, his work, and his legacy, and how he became the genius that we all know today. So we're gonna show some of his work. He was born in Italy in a really poor family. uh, his father was a notary and her mom was a person. We all know him as a painter, but he was really interested in invention, in drawing, in painting, sculpture, architecture, science. So Leonardo da Vinci was educated in a studio of the renowned Italian painter Andrea del Verrocchio. Much of his early working life was spent in the city of Milan. Then he also worked in Rome, in Venice, in France. Leonardo was a renowned, he's really known as a painter. His most famous work is the Mona Lisa. Like in this image, we have a self-portrait of Leonardo da Vinci. He did it himself. It's one of the only, it's the only one that we have so far. Um, Leonardo was exposed to both theoretical training and a wide range of technical skills, including drafting, chemistry, metallurgy, metalworking, mechanics. Um, so he's really considered one of the greatest painters of all times, despite perhaps only 15 of his paintings have survived today. He spent his last years living at home, one place gave by the King of France, Francis I. So he sailed for a really rich family in Italy, the Medici family. They were the bankers and they gave control of the city of Florence. They were really rich and powerful. So, despite the recent awareness and admiration of Leonardo da Vinci as a scientist and inventor, um, it has to pass like 400 years. So his fame was more recognized more than just as more than a painter. So the first famous paint known by Leonardo da Vinci was the baptism of Jesus Christ. He did it with his master Verrocchio. Is the baptism of Jesus Christ. The other really important one was the Annunciation. The Annunciation, as we all know in the Bible, is when the angel Gabriel was sent by God to announce to Mary that she would give and conceive a son, Jesus Christ. So Leonardo's most popular painting was painted in the 1490s. Is the Last Supper. It was commissioned to the convent of Santa Maria in Milan. It represents it represents the last meal shared by Jesus with his disciples before Jesus was captured and died, and show the moment when Jesus has said to all of them, one of you will betray me, and the consternation that happened to all of them. So among the works of Leonardo da Vinci in the 16th century is the Mona Lisa, as we all know it. It's a famous portrait. We don't know the identity of this person. We don't know if it's a woman, a man. It's just a laughing person. It's arguably the most famous painting in the world. We don't know uh, the nature of the smile. We also know, like for example, most of his painting was religious because the Pope was really he was a really big admirer of Leonardo da Vinci. So he also studied the proportions of human body. He was really into drawing uh, ink on paper, and he was really putting like everything uh, that was that he was thinking on the paper. So he was really interested in mechanics too. Um, Leonardo was not just a prolific painter; he was a prolific draftsman. He did journals full of small sketches and detailing drawings, recording all the manners of or things that caught his attention. Da Vinci's ideas are centuries ahead of his time. He didn't really look like someone of his time in a way that they didn't even have things like regular way of keeping time. Uh, in his writing, Da Vinci describes his complex designs, his ideas led him to dream the impossible, and he built an extraordinary legend in a place where life was cheap. He was really interested in engineering, in mechanisms of war. He created timeless masterpieces. One of the things that I found interesting about Leonardo da Vinci is considering how much of his career he spent not working as an artist, if as all people can think about him, but most of his time he did it as a military engineer. He was not really successful doing this, but in Florence in the 16th century, Da Vinci started painting for the Vatican, for the Pope. He was really interested in the human body, the human nature, and even in the religious paintings, he always put in the center the human nature itself. So uh, Leonardo da Vinci was never satisfied with his job. Restless minds continue to amaze the world around him. One of his greatest obsessions and mysteries is flying. How he was fascinated how dogs could fly. He used his knowledge of engineering and design machines that he hoped will be capable in the future to fly. So he did predictions. He thought we could add maybe wings to a man. He was really obsessed with perfection, and the technical precision surprised uh, experts even nowadays. So he was another of his greatest obsession was anatomy. At the moment of death, that led him to start working with the dissection of human corpses. He did an astonishing discovery centuries ahead of his time. Leonardo da Vinci made history when he does the first descriptions of arteriosclerosis, when he was comparing the circulatory system of an elderly man and a child. He was working with dead bodies. So why is he a genius? So we all most of the things that we all know about him today, it's about his notebooks. He revealed the scope of his visionary ideas, but he never published any of these ideas. So I think Leonardo is one of these individuals who has a code of success that you cannot measure in degrees of wealth, of amount, popularity. He was always comparing his work and challenging himself uh, with himself. He was his way of comparing. So he did things like mirror scripting, like the things that he was writing, he was doing it like in a reflection, like if it was a mirror. He did a lot of unfinished, famous paints. He never finished it because he just lost the attention and he did not continue. And he was always in a big admiration of geometry and math, and he applied his math knowledge and for the scales and everything he did uh, in life. So for me, Leonardo da Vinci represents something about human beings themselves. He represents someone that overcame a number of social obstacles like poverty. He always put his ideas, his philosophy. He was working for the Vatican, but he put a lot of his criticism of the Catholic Church in his painting that experts and scholars discovered centuries ahead, not in his time. So to conclude, I think that studying the life and work of Leonardo da Vinci is studying the genius and creativity of human beings in its maximum expression. Not many people can be famous in life like he did. Uh, he was really hardworking and caring with his work at the same time, and he was a big idol at the moment. So for me, Leonardo da Vinci's legacy transcends to all times. His ideas continue to be studied nowadays and praised as the greatest expressions of the Renaissance. So one of the reasons I choose Leonardo is the human being as the center of all of his work and creation. Scholars interpreted his view of the world as being based on logic. He used empirical methods that were really uh, way ahead of his time. So with this, I will conclude my presentation. Thank you very much.